What is up, everybody? Welcome to Comic Book Club. I'm Alex.
I'm Justin.
I'm Pete.
And we are coming to you live from a couple places on the internet. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, T-Shirt Central. Also, that's a new venue for us. Very exciting. Sponsored by Justin.
You know, here's the thing. Everybody wants one or has one or wears one.
T-shirts,
what else do you wear?
Wants one?
I don't know. People wear them under their clothes.
Right,
people wear them under their clothes.
Yeah. Great.
This is a fun discussion.
This is a fun discussion, and we got a bunch of fun discussions coming your way in
They're secret clothes. I'm just saying, they're secret.
They're not secret. You just showed them. There's no secret going on here.
But you didn't know beforehand.
I guess that's not true. Yeah. Well, listen, we have a bunch of great guests on the show that I'm very excited to bring into the stream. But first of all, let's bring in our first guest. He is one of the creators, one of the main creators behind the new book, The Lycan, that is already on Comixology. It's awesome. You got to check it out. Ladies and gentlemen, Thomas Jane. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. Very excited to have you here. Very excited to chat. I do want to tell you a little story, if that's okay, to open up. If that's
boy.
Right, just before we get
that's what we're here for.
Yep. So, Pete, over here, not to call him out, Pete, big Punisher fan, was huge fan of Dirty Laundry when you put it out, would bring it up. We used to do the show live, like in a theater, and almost every week he would bring the conversation back around to Dirty Laundry, bring it up. Loved it. Huge fan of it. Loved the whole Punisher, the whole vibe that you're bringing there. He was at, I think, we were, all three of us were at every show for like a year, 2 years, something like that. And then 1 week Pete was gone. And we were like, oh, you know, it'd be funny. We should pull a prank on him. We should be like, oh, you know what? It's the craziest thing. Thomas Jane showed up. And Pete was like, no, what are you guys talking about? How dare you? No, this is not true. This is not true. And I mean, I'm not great at Photoshop anyway, but I want to say conservatively the worst Photoshop I've ever made.
It's a very mediocre Photoshop. Yes.
The two of us, me and Justin, standing with you, being like, no, here he is. Here's Thomas Jane on stage. And Pete was so mad. He thought it was real and has been mad at us for it for years. When I said you were coming on now, he was like, no, he's not. He's absolutely
I wasn't going to fall for it twice.
No, he's not going to fall
for it. And so now take off your mask and reveal that you're not Thomas Jane.
Yeah. I'm only going to talk to Pete from here on out.
Oh, great. That's my dream come true. My dream come true.
That's right. It's just you and me, Pete. Ignore these two knuckleheads.
I do most of the time.
This is going perfectly. This is going as
well, that's in the past. We're going to talk about the present, though, which is The Lycan, a big comic book, as I mentioned, just came out from Comixology. It is you, David James Kelly, Mike Carey, Diego Yapur, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's out now. It is set in 1777, I want to say. Follows
97.
97?
End of the century. Yeah, just at that turning point, that liminal space between the 1700s and the 1800s.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So a bunch of folks, a bunch of soldiers crash land onto an island. They very quickly discover that things are not quite what they seem. Given the title, The Lycan, I think people can kind of assume that there's some sort of wolves/werewolves involved there, but there's a lot more going on in the book. Obviously, this has been a passion project for you for a very long time. Why, just to start off, like, why is that? What drew you to the story? What so focused you on it?
Been a werewolf fan from the very beginning of my film going life. I saw The Howling in theaters. I think I was something like 13, which is just like bullseye for me and my buddies, and we just lost our minds over that transformation scene, and been a werewolf fan ever since. Werewolf films are few and far between, you know, stories in general. It's hard to find. There's not a good au revoir of werewolf movies. There's a handful, but so I've always thought, you know, I'd love to do a good story, a good werewolf story. And David James Kelly is this terrific screenwriter. We were working on another project 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And he brought me this you know, the germ of an idea of, because we were talking about Brotherhood of the Wolf, which is a fantastic French film, which is like one of the best looking movies. It's like right up my alley. I love a gutsy, shadowy, gothic film noir, like anything with that kind of atmosphere that you can kind of fall into and it feels real, is just like manna from heaven for me. So Brotherhood of the Wolf just like blew my mind, but there's no werewolves in it. There's no, you know, werewolves in the movie.
So you love it, but you're mad at it a little. You're a little mad.
So we thought, you know, let's do something like that, but, you know, pay off and
few. Okay.
Damn wolves. So that was kind of the genesis.
Well, and this is obviously been associated, like we were just talking about, with comic book projects in the past. But I think, this is your first comic book work? So why bring it to the page like that? Why was this the right medium?
I had a company called Raw Studios back in the day. After The Punisher, I've always been a comic book fan, but The Punisher opened the door to meet some of my heroes. Bernie Wrightson, you know, that gothic Bernie Wrightson stuff just hits me in the sweet spot. And I also became friends with Dave Stevens. I was a huge fan of The Rocketeer. And I got to meet all these guys that I'd grown up, either Bruce Jones, you know, we all became pals. And so Tim Bradstreet did the cover for the Punisher adaptation. And I had to do a photo shoot with him because he works off of photos, and we became fast friends, great friends. We're still friends today. He did the cover for Lycan 1 and 2. Nice. So he introduced me to the world, and I quickly started a comic book company called Raw Studios. We did 3 or 4 books. Bad Planet, I got Basil Gogos to do the cover for the graphic novel. I did a 6-issue series on that, self-published it, and learned the ropes, you know, really learned the ropes, dealing with printers and letterers and the process of creating a book. And obviously there's a lot of different ways to do it. But the way that turned me on was an intimate relationship with the artist, you know. I approach it like a director, you know, laying out the scene, what to emphasize. You know, it's a shot list. You know, I know people like Coppola, you know, when they ask him, like, how do you get your inspiration? Some of these shots are just like mind boggling. And he said comic books, you know. So that turned me on, and not because I wanted to make movies. Like Bad Planet as a film would be a $400 million movie. You know? that's the beauty of being able to, you know, create something on the page. There's no budget, there's no limit. The only limit is how long it takes for your artist, you know, to draw stuff. You don't want to set your story in a baseball stadium where you have to draw you know, thousands of people in every frame, like, you know, but it really gives you I guess one of my loves for comics comes from just the universe of different minds, different creative minds, and what they can create on the page. So that led me to the independent stuff, you know. I was never a fan of superhero stuff, but everything else about comics I really, really love, you know, from Westerns to science fiction to crime, and being a, you know, big fan of the Gothic romance horror, the Gothic horror, throw in a little romance, like that turns me on. Bride of Frankenstein, movies like Suspiria, with the underground, the base, the caverns underneath the dance studio. Like with that, we definitely took some inspiration from that in our story.
Cool.
Well, let me ask you then. I feel like the dialogue really pops in this, and it feels like you're drawing from so much stuff. So I want to ask you how many weeks you spent at sea learning to speak to these sailors.
I'm glad you asked about the dialogue, because David and I came up with the story. You know, it's an outline. I'd say the outline was probably 4 pages long. We sketched in characters, we sketched in the group dynamics. There's 3 groups. There's our hunters, there's our redcoats, and then there's our nuns.
Classic
but really,
trio.
Yeah. and they represent, you know, different aspects of the human condition. But handing it over to Mike Carey is what brought this thing to life. You know, Mike brought everything else to the book: the dialogue, the character relationships, all of the great. You know, he took our outline and built on it and brought his own stuff, even to the plot. You know, the plot basically follows the story that David and I outlined. But this book is great because of Mike Carey, and it is great. And I tried to get this going over 10 years ago, and I found this great artist. I'm really picky about artists, and I wanted somebody that could bring the style to life of that turn of the century, you know, late 1700s feel. So I was inspired by people like Joseph Clement Cole, Coll, Cole, and Franklin Booth, right? So these guys are pretty darn detailed. I mean, they don't, you know, they weren't drawing sequential art. They were making beautiful, sort of what looks like engravings with that beautiful black and white, very similar to what Bernie Wrightson did with Frankenstein, right? So that was the bar. And of course, we've got to turn that into a book. And I found this incredibly talented English artist named Sean O'Connor. And he actually drew 2 issues for us. And there's actually some of like that front page that you just showed a couple seconds ago.
Yeah, the ship,
black and white. The black and white, that's Sean O'Connor. Look at that.
That's awesome.
You know, and that was the book. So that was the book, you know, and I was really excited about it. And then Sean dropped off the face of the earth. Could not find him. Still can't find Sean O'Connor. I don't know what happened to Sean. Nobody does. He was an outsider. He didn't have he had very few friends in the comic book world.
Oh, wow.
I can't remember if he'd even done. I know that he had done some sequential work. Obviously, like I needed to hire a guy who knew what he was doing, but I don't know if he'd been published. And this was going to be Sean's sort of breakout book, and I thought it was going to put him on top instantly, you know. And I was very excited about finding a guy who could do this kind of work. Nobody does this kind of work anymore. You know, those days are gone. But I found Sean. I was like,
and lost him. Found and lost.
And then the book sat in a drawer ever since. You know, it was heartbreaking. So I started a new company called Renegade, and Courtney and I thought, you know, geez, you know, it would be super cool to dust off the Lycan and turn it into a book. So we sent it to Comixology. They loved it right away. We had another company earlier, but they weren't amenable to me doing what I wanted to do, which was to take the time to make the book that I want to make, and that's going to sit on a shelf. You know, you want to have these books and you want to put them on your shelf. They have a place in your collection. And you can't say that about you know, every book. So that's what we were able to do.
Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about, like, you know, you have these epic ideas, and now we get to see these epic panels. How does it feel to have something kind of live in your head and then you get to see it kind of come to life?
Yeah. Well, it's a journey, step by step, you know. Like I said earlier, working with the artist is really where I get my passion, you know, laying out the book. So it's the outlines with Diego where I go frame by frame, panel by panel, and we work out how to tell the story like a director. And I've heard that that's not always the case. You know, if you're under a deadline, you're firing off the script and sending it to the artist, and he's laying it down, and that's and then they color it and throw some letters on there and go to print. But for me, the real joy is sort of laying the story out panel by panel. So what's it feel like? It feels like work.
You know,
but I just turned in an issue. I won't tell you which issue, but I just turned in a finalized issue. So that's when your last chance to go through it cover to cover and make sure that there's nothing else that needs to be changed. You know, is it ready for print? And then when I got to the last page, you know what? This is a damn good book.
Nice.
And I had that feeling. It probably lasted for about a minute and a half.
Better to have it.
You know, it's interesting to hear you talk like this, because certainly we'll have people that have a background in acting or a background in Hollywood, and they'll usually be like taking storyboards and then turning them into a comic book. But it almost seems like you're coming at it the opposite direction, that you're thinking about it like a director, thinking about it like storyboards, but then figuring out how to make it work best in the graphic novel / comic book form.
Yeah, I mean, growing up reading books, the comics, that's a huge part of my storytelling life. You know, it's where I learned story was through the books, because you can flip through it and then back up a couple of pages and see how they started that scene. It's just right there. You can spend hours just figuring out how they put this thing together. So that's what I wanted to bring to the book. I don't want to make and this was really popular, you guys know this, for a while, and maybe it still is, but you have a script, you hand it off to an artist, they turn it into a comic book, maybe 4 issues is the sweet spot.
Magic.
And then you sell it, and then you send that around and say, look at this comic, this should be a movie. Right? So that's what we don't do. You know, the thing, I have way too much respect for the art and the reader. You know, that experience of your mom dropping you off the comic book shop, and she says, I'll be back in an hour, and you say, take your time,
enjoy the fabric store is what I please.
Exactly.
Well, I feel like that passion really comes across in the book, and also if you were to make this into a movie, the naval battle convent werewolf CGI budget would be probably pretty high as well. So.
I don't know how much you have to CGI the nuns necessarily, Justin, but we could talk.
Hard to find a nun.
Yeah, you have a point. If this this particular story happens to make a great film, and you could do it on a budget for sure, but if that were to happen, I would be fighting tooth and nail to make sure that the transformations were done practically.
Yeah.
You know?
Nice.
I think you could do such a fantastic job with the materials that we have today. And then you can just add the icing with a little bit of digital smoothing, you know, you just make it, but it doesn't want to feel, my personal experience is I don't want it to feel too perfect. You know, if it starts getting that like slippery as grease kind of feeling that we see in a lot of animated stuff that's supposed to be photo real,
live action.
You know, and now that's changing with AI, but I like it a little bit messy, like Ray Harryhausen. If you went in and smoothed out the battles with the skeleton, they just would not have the same. And I actually think I saw that on YouTube. Somebody went in and did exactly that for the skeleton battle sequence, the Harryhausen stuff. Like, what would that look like if we did it today? And it's just not the same, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, this is slightly getting off topic, but I've been rewatching the Star Wars movies with my son, who's 10, and watching the special editions, which I haven't watched in years. Like, the CGI effects have just not aged well, but everything else has. Like, everything else, all the janky stuff with the TIE fighters and everything, totally fine. Part of the piece, but everything else just doesn't work.
It's because it's real, you know, and your suspension of disbelief. And then sometimes you watch a scene and it just flicks through your head. How did they do that? But then you're on to the next, you know, moment. And that's the sweet spot, you know, that reality, like human beings created this for you. And there's the magic of editing and the magic of effects and the magic of acting and the little sleight of hand that's involved. That's all human, right? Those are skills. So many different skills sets are brought to bear on a sequence in a film. And when you boil that all down to somebody in India sitting on a computer, it is not the same, and it will never be the same. Although, you know, now it's getting really tough to even tell what's real and what's not with AI. So I'm not sure what that's going to do.
Yeah, I think you're right, though. I think we can still tell the difference. But speaking of keeping it real, our next guest, Christopher Priest, comic legend, wanted to say to you, look how great this guy's lighting is. Tell him I think it's awesome. He appreciates you keeping it real.
I've started directing. I directed an episode of The Expanse, which I had a blast on, and I'm proud of the work I did. And then I did this show for Amazon called Troppo, which we shot in Australia. We did a couple of seasons, and I directed a couple of episodes of Troppo, which I'm also proud of. So I'm transitioning into taking the 25 years of experience I've had on set and turning it into storytelling. Because you know what? There's always a need for directors who know what they're doing. I can't tell you how many directors I've worked with who honestly, you know, don't. So I feel like I've got something to offer, you know.
I've always wondered how that transition goes when you are an actor in a show and you're like, hey, I'd like to direct one of these. Do you just how do you broach that conversation, and are you sort of like, here's some idea, like where does that go for someone like who's been working forever, like you said?
On getting that first gig is really hard, and that's the challenge, you know, because like The Expanse, I think it was season 5, and The Expanse had such a great set that everybody came back. You know, everybody dropped whatever they were doing, whatever other job they had. They found a replacement and they jumped onto The Expanse because we just happened to have a terrific cast and crew where everybody there were no assholes, you know.
Hard to find. We have we're all assholes on this show. So.
The other way to do it, you know, you're either all assholes.
All or none, sort of.
And so I had like the first AD, he wanted to direct an episode. He'd been there for as long as I had. You had other people, but The Expanse got going because I came on board first. Back in season 1 when we were on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah.
And my agents were like, dude, doing a show on the Sci-Fi Channel, you know, that's like not a step up for you. But the boys had sold me. They said, we have the biggest budget that the Sci-Fi Channel's ever had. And we have Mark and Hawk, you know, Mark Ferguson, Hawk Osby, who wrote Iron Man 3 and Children of Men. Okay. Yeah. So I said, okay, you know, this is worth the gamble. And I came on board, which then greenlit The Expanse, and they were able to then, you know, put it together. And then, you know, Bezos picked it up and put it on Amazon, and it had a great life.
Never happened.
My point is they owed me one.
That's how you get it. There you go.
I mean, unrelated topic.
I delivered. you know.
Yeah.
So that wasn't the only, that was just the beginning of the story. The second part of the story is you have to prove that you really want it. So what I followed the director of, he, you know, there are 2 blocks, right? And so I showed up every day, 5 a.m. and shadowed for
awesome.
the month, really the 6 weeks with pre-production. That, and I showed the boys that I was serious about this, you know. I went through it from beginning to end, and at the end, you know, they were like, "Okay, well, I guess we gotta."
He did
it. So yeah, you have to really want it, and then you have to do a great job, you know. And I did. I'm proud of that for a first episode of directing television. You know, did a great job. So now I'm gonna do some more.
We've got a bit of a fight going on in the comments here, a pleasant fight about where people recognize you from. I'm sure you get this all the time, but where do people recognize you from the most at this point?
Well, I guess the 2 movies are the Mist and the Punisher, and then there's The Expanse. Certainly, people recognize me from that quite a bit. You know, and I'm a sci-fi nerd, so for me that's really fun. And I'm also a horror guy, so I like being recognized for The Mist and for The Expanse. I've said this a million times. I've never been a Marvel fan. I turned down that part 3 times, and I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I you know, they finally convinced me by sending me some covers that Bradstreet had done. And then I saw what the Punisher could be. You know, I saw that the taxi driver kind of feeling that you could bring to it. And that's what I was pushing for. And that's why I did the short film Dirty Laundry, because I just wanted to, you know, show how it could be done outside of the constraints that I think that the Marvel universe naturally, you know, puts on their material.
That's what I loved about it. Your passion for it really kind of came through, and it got me so excited. And while we're talking about it, I just want to geek out a little bit and just say thank you for your work on The Punisher. I saw it 8 times in the movie theater. I'm a huge Punisher fan, so my friends wanted to go see it with me in the movie theater, and every time I saw it, I got something new. So I just want to thank you for your work on that, because you really brought it. And as a fan, I could tell.
We thank you. We worked hard. You know, I commit to something, I give 110%. And
thank you for that.
Particularly proud of the fight scene with the Russian.
Yes, dude. Yeah.
Kevin Nash. What a fantastic. I mean, you know, when you're like 7'8", then you have to be a nice guy. Nobody will talk
terrifying.
Otherwise. So he was great, and we were able to rehearse after work. I mean, you know, it was a tough shoot. It was always getting thrown through a wall, or, you know, trying to do a car stunt. I mean, every day was pretty packed. But after work, Kevin would show up, and then we'd rehearse for at least an hour, maybe 2, to get that fight scene, because we knew we had this much time to shoot it. So the more prepared we were when we came in, the better it was going to be, and that's exactly what happened.
Do you ever talk about doing like a Punisher into the Punishverse or anything like that? Bringing all the universes together.
The Punishers together.
Yeah, how cool would that be, right? I see what you're saying. I love Bernthal.
Oh yeah.
We were pals for a bit. You know, I'm a hermit. I wish I got out more, but every time I see Bernthal, he always puts a smile on my face. He's a super talented guy, and I think perfect for the role. You know, one of the reasons I had turned that down is because I just didn't feel like I could play an Italian Francis Castiglione. You know, I'm like, why don't you get an Italian? You know, I mean, Jesus, there's a lot of great Italian, or at least a guy that looks Italian. But you know, they convinced me. They convinced me, and I'm glad they did.
Yeah, me too.
Just to get back to the book, we did have a question earlier about getting it in print, and it is going to be in print through Ablaze. There's going to be a collection out, presumably later this year.
I hope it's later this year. I wouldn't have done any contract with anybody unless they let us do a print version.
Cool.
That's awesome.
But this is coming out as the issues. So how is there any difference in terms of how you're looking to hit it, putting it up digitally with Comixology versus eventually the print collection with the Blaze?
We've got a couple of surprises in store for people who have read the digital version and then want to pick up the print. You know, like I said, I kind of live and breathe this stuff. So I'm always thinking like, what would I want to see? Yeah. What would I want to see on that? Because walking into the comic book shop and the smells and then all of those covers, you know, and just peeling through them and seeing what catches my eye, what's new, what's old, what feels interesting is how we're approaching the print version. We're going to do 3 double issues.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's exciting. And then of course we'll do the graphic novel.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And
can't wait.
Yes, I also can't wait. I mean, obviously, this has been a 10-year odyssey to get this here, but given that you are doing it as part of a new label, do you have an eye to shepherding other comics as well?
Yeah, I am. You know, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for a guy with another job, right?
Yeah, right.
So I would seriously, if I could make a living or at least continue to pay for my house, I would definitely consider doing books full time because I love it.
Oh, that's awesome.
But what was that question? I forgot already.
Oh, just if you have other books down the road coming other than the Lycan, if there's other things you have.
So I've got another story that I feel would make a really cool, another limited 6-issue run. It's another kind of a little bit of it has a gothic romance element to it, but it's set during the Prohibition.
Huh.
And it's an undead. It's a guy who gets killed by the mob, but he's through the magic of love and witchcraft. He's resurrected and gets to take revenge on the mob in the Depression. So that would be a really fun book.
Yeah,
wow.
It's called Returner.
Ooh,
that's awesome.
Good name.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. Before we let you go, Thomas, anything else you want to plug? I know you have a bunch of movies coming out down the road, but if you want to keep it focused on the comics, that's fine too.
Well, I just got to see some of the film I did with Shane Black and Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, wow.
And I got to tell you, it looks excellent. It's called Play Dirty. And
that's awesome.
It's based on the Parker series, the Richard Stark series of novels. So I think it's, they've tried to do this a bunch of times. Lee Marvin in Point Blank is my favorite version of Parker. But this one, Shane was firing on all cylinders. I would keep an eye out.
Work. It's so fun for that particular area of stories. Really.
He's in full Shane Black form on this one. So that's exciting. And then I did a Western with Dallas Sonnier, a script by Craig Zoller, who wrote Bone Tomahawk, who directed and Dragged Across Concrete. And that. So Dallas sent me this Western. Right now it's called Frontier Crucible, and I had a really good time producing and acting. Producing with Dallas, I love Dallas's work. He's a real producer. So those guys are also sort of few and far between.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thomas, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
Congrats on the Lycan.
Stay
Very
busy.
excited to read the rest of the series.
Yeah,
and
can't wait.
Congratulations on everything.
Oh, if anybody's into UFOs out there, I'm finishing a book, a nonfiction book on aliens called A Human's Guide to Visiting Aliens.
Yeah. Wow.
Cool.
Yeah, I wrote it, so now I'm editing the damn thing, and one way or another, any UFO fans, look out for that one.
Awesome.
Well, I know you're just getting out the door, but I have a follow up on that. So it's a nonfiction.
Sure.
It's about humans finding aliens. What happens in there? What is the
We have a long secret history, right? And there's been 3 congressional hearings on UFOs in 3 years, which is pretty cool. The last one we had was 50 years ago, right? And Project Blue Book, they shut that down, and they were able to put that genie back in the bottle for 50 years. It's only recently that the government is kind of being forced to acknowledge that there really is unidentified object. They won't admit that they're from another world or from another society, from another technology. They won't admit that, but they have admitted they're real. But behind that phenomenon of the UFO is the intelligence that created these craft that come from these different densities, dimensions, planets. We don't really know, but we do know that they're intelligent. They obviously came from some sort of society that evolved their own form of intelligence. We know that they're humanoid, which really pisses off the scientists because, you know, they're pretty convinced that the humanoid sort of ape intelligence is a fluke of evolution. You know, if that asteroid hadn't hit, then this would be a completely different planet, the one that wiped out the dinosaurs. So the fact that they're humanoid, the fact that they're intelligent, what does that tell us about the universe that we truly live in? So so I deal with 2 parts: the humans, who we are, and what's going on, and why has this been an 80-year? Why has it taken 80 years? You know, what's so
interesting?
What's so terrifying or powerful that they'd be willing to kill people to hide that secret? And then what is the secret? Who are the aliens? What are they doing here? The hard questions. So the book deals with the hard questions of ufology.
And have you figured out what the aliens are doing? Not to spoil it or anything.
Wait for
because
the
it'd be
book
great to
out.
know.
You don't want to. You don't want to pay the $12.99.
Get the book.
There are a couple of different leading theories. We don't know what anybody that says I've got this figured out, you can immediately change the channel, because they don't. Nobody truly knows. But the more we learn, and some stuff has just come out in the last couple of years that is pointing in a direction that may give us some answers. So that's why I wrote the book. I was like, this is too confusing, and I need to lay this out in a way to see if I can understand it. You know, so I'm very proud of A Human's Guide to Visiting Aliens. I'm looking forward to the UFO folks.
That's a great title, man. That's killer. It's really fun.
That's great. Thomas, again, thank you for everything. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to more Lycan, and have a great night.
Thanks, guys.
Come back soon. We'll see you.
All right, there we go. That was Thomas.
Crazy. It was 10 years ago he was here, and Pete missed him.
Came back
but
again.
It's nice that you were here.
This time it was Photoshop, though, Pete. I don't know if
that was fake.
Yeah, that was fake. But yes, the book is called The Lycan. It is out now from Comixology, and presumably later this year it'll be collected by Ablaze in a print format. So definitely check it out. It's awesome and very wild.
It's nonstop too. I mean, it starts.
It's really good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Let's turn, if it's okay with you guys, from werewolves to vampires and bring in our next guest. He's a living legend, and I'm very excited we get to talk to him here about the new phase for Vampirella coming from Dynamite later on in March. Ladies and gentlemen, Priest, hello.
Hey!
Welcome.
Hey, guys.
Thank you for
How
your
are
patience.
you?
Thank you for coming.
Your comment about
Thank
Thomas's lighting was so funny. I had
Yeah, my lighting is terrible, and
It's all right.
My camera is doing something. I just figured out what it is. It's the capture card is stripping out HDR and making it like not HDR. So like in my little monitor here, I have nice color saturation, but over here I look like I'm it's like I'm in black and white or something.
It's not a feature film. Well, yeah, you look amazing.
Yeah, you look great.
Yeah, just turn the video off and we'll just make it radio.
There we go. We'll just listen to it.
Basically what it is. It's fine. It's a podcast, basically. Let's talk about Vampirella. So you've been working on the book for Dynamite for a very long time now, but it is getting, as I just mentioned, a new #1 starting March 26th. The art is, I'm going to get this horribly wrong, but Ergun Gunduz? Is that
close enough?
Close enough. All right.
Count it.
And there's some big stuff going down in the book that I thought was really fascinating. There's, without getting too much into the plot that's led before, Vampirella has a baby now, but when we start off, she's dealing with postpartum depression, which is obviously a very big, very serious deal. But also we're getting a cyberpunk Vampirella of the future. So plus her son might be traveling through time. There's a lot of stuff going on here. What led to this reinvention next reinvention of Vampirella?
Well, this is kind of the next evolution of what we've been doing. So I was brought in to kind of reimagine Vampirella for her 50th anniversary. So we did 25 issues of that. And it was my idea to let's end this series with 25. I didn't want to get pulled at like issue 36 and a half or something,
Right.
Let's make a nice round number for the volume and there. And then I assumed that Dynamite would just put a new team on the book and, wheel me out the door. But instead we did a series of miniseries, and we did like a chapter. Well, at the end of the first volume, she may or may not have married Dracula. It depends on how you look at it. But she gets married to a guy who has the Dracula virus. He's carrying some sort of virus that can terraform a human body and resurrect Dracula. So we explored that a little bit with a miniseries called Unholy, where she is, trying to purge this Dracula thing from her new husband, and then we find out that the Dracula bug has jumped into somebody else, and Dracula comes back. Anyway, long story short, but at the end of Unholy, she discovers that she's pregnant. She was married, so she's not pregnant out of wedlock, but she got pregnant, and we went into Vampirella Year 1, where Vampirella is telling the story of how she came to Earth, and she's talking to her unborn child. So she's talking to her belly and rubbing her belly, and she's talking to her unborn child and telling the story of how she came to Earth. And that's Vampirella Year 1. At the end of Year 1, she goes into labor. She gets into preeclampsia. And then we have this book called Rage, where she is shipwrecked, trying to escape from this island where she was, and she lost the baby, or at least they tell her she lost the baby, and then she finds out, no, she didn't lose the baby. Somebody stole the baby. So she tracks these cultists down to get the baby back. By the time she gets there, she realizes the baby has died.
Oh, no.
So now she's pissed. So that's the title Rage. So Vampirella Rage is basically now, instead of Vampirella being the good guy in Vampirella Rage, she is the shark. She is exacting revenge against these people who stole and murdered her child. We get to the end of that series, that miniseries. These are all 6-issue miniseries. You get to the end of that series, and we reveal that Vampirella's baby is not, in fact, dead. There was the old switcheroo, and that the baby is with her evil twin sister, Draculina. So
this is like a soap opera. I love this. This is awesome.
So then we launched Vampirella 666, where Dynamite renumbered the thing and said, well, if the book had been published continually through Warren and through Harris and through these other publishers, we'd be up to issue 666 now. So we did that gag and we renumbered it to 666, and we did kind of a Groundhog's Day thing. And basically, Vampirella is going up against her evil twin to get her baby back. And long story short, she gets her baby back, and that leads us to the end of all of that. And we're going into a volume 6 of the Vampirella monthly series. And this will kind of conclude our baby mama business here, mainly because every time, I'm not a big fan of superheroes getting married or sitcom couples having babies. I think that soon as Jeannie married Major Nelson, the show was over. And like Darren and Samantha, okay, well, they had Tabitha, but then they had this other kid, and we didn't know what to do with the other kid, and that kind of thing. And I don't know. Just my opinion. I just think that married superhero with children, that's a cul-de-sac. You wandered into this gated community now, and where do you go from there? Mm-hmm. So we have to figure out a final sort of disposition for this child, because we're not doing a cul-de-sac over at Dynamite. We're much too subversive for that sort of thing. So that's basically what we have here. And she has her baby back, but she never bonded with the baby because the baby was stolen from her. Mm. And that's how she didn't even realize that the baby, when they found the dead baby, she didn't realize that wasn't her baby, because she had never bonded with the child. She was unconscious when she gave birth. So now she's finally got the baby back, and you think it's a happily ever after. But if any of you have children, if you've ever had,
two, we do, yes,
two. Oh, okay. Then you understand the nuclear detonation a newborn baby brings into your home.
I'm still in the blast radius, so experiencing the waves.
There are two things that really rock the foundations of a married couple. One is having a baby. The other is moving. So if you're moving and having a baby, you're really screwed.
Oh, yeah, I can't even imagine that idea.
So I asked myself, now, how do we steer out of this cul-de-sac in a way that is not a cheat, and that feels organic to the character? So here's the page here. Yeah, so she has the baby back, but she doesn't know what to do with the baby, and the baby is making her crazy. It's just every 15, 20 minutes, every hour or whatever, the baby's crying and needs to be fed, and she's being tortured by the baby. So she gets this babysitter, and she's leaving the baby with the babysitter, and she's so grateful to be able to leave the house, and leave the baby with the babysitter. She doesn't particularly like it, fellas. And I know that's her child, and now she feels guilty because it's her child. She should love this child, but it doesn't happen automatically. The bonding is not something that is necessarily going to happen in a preset set of time. Anyway, so she's having this problem, and what we're doing with this story is showing the ultimate results of untreated postpartum. If postpartum that is left untreated can really lead to long-lasting psychological, emotional consequences. So we're seeing what would happen to this character if she never resolves these emotional questions.
Wow.
And that's when we jump ahead 50 years. Well, actually, what happens is she looks up at some point, because here in this picture here, she has gone out. Okay, yeah. So at some point, she becomes convinced that the babysitter is actually her mother in disguise. Her mother is besides being a vampire, she's also an accomplished sorceress. So she can. She's a shape changer. She can become anything or make you think she looks like anybody. So at some point, Vampirella becomes convinced that her teenage babysitter is actually her mother, and she's bound and determined to keep her mother, her evil, cold bitch of a mother, away from her baby. Okay, because they don't have the best relationship in the world. Her mother is just nuts, So she becomes convinced that the babysitter is her mother. So at some point, she attacks the babysitter, scares the babysitter to death, realizes, oh no, the babysitter is just the babysitter. But now she's scared her off. And in this particular scene, she's just chased her babysitter away, and now she's losing it. She's losing it. She doesn't know what to do. At some point, the baby stops crying, and she's wondering what happened now. Why did the baby fall asleep? So she goes in to check on the baby, and she finds a dark stranger standing in the room holding this baby. And at some point, there we go. At some point, we learned that he doesn't reveal himself at that moment, but he's picked up the baby and he said, "Well, somebody should hold the baby. You're clearly not going to do it, But at some point, we reveal to the reader that the dark stranger is this guy. His name is Cicero, and he is Vampirella's infant son, having traveled back in time 50 years from the future.
Wow!
And it's a dystopian future wherein Vampirella has become this incredible, evil, authoritarian figure. And I want to hasten to say I wrote this like almost a year ago. It's not a commentary on what's going on. It's not a commentary on what's going on in our country, and I hope people don't come away thinking that this is some sort of. I don't want the people politicizing this, but in the future, she is now the Witch of Ashthorn. She has accumulated all this power. She has outlawed vampires. She has literally conquered the earth, and she is she considers herself benign. And all depends on how you look at it. If you're on her team, I guess she's benign. But she has become like a very, very bad person. So her son has traveled back through time to try to convince his mother, who has just rescued him from the evil sister, just rescued him as a baby from the evil sister. He has come back to try to convince Vampirella to give him back because she's a terrible mom.
Wow.
And if you don't give him back, this is what's going to happen.
Wow.
That's all of that sounds simultaneously awesome and the ravings of a madman.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, exactly. And it's wild to me. Like how did you just walked us through it so meticulously, but you sit down with Dynamite first issue, you're like, let me throw out two ideas: postpartum, authoritarian cyberpunk future. Let's
right. Yeah. Well, as the series progresses, you will see that we have it's a 20-page story. 10 pages are set in the present day, where Vampirella is trying to deal with this baby and with some guy claiming to be her adult son. And 10 pages and we do cutaways to future Vampirella being like this, evil, horrible person. And we're seeing the son who wanted nothing to do with his mother and just wanted a normal life. But we see him turn a corner and turn toward evil because that's ultimately all that's left to him. When we first see him, he's like, as an adult, we get a glimpse of him in the future. When we first see Cicero, he's a 22-year-old FedEx driver. He wears the short pants and he's whistling while he works, and he's got a girlfriend and he's living his life. His evil mother has released him to live his life. But circumstances come up where, he's going to have to, he becomes the only person who can kind of put a stop to her machinations. And, in order to do that, he needs to kind of embrace his dark side, his half vampire, half Dracula side, whatever. So it's a fun little yarn. And I'm always looking to do stuff. I'm tired of reading the same comic book over and over again. Mm-hmm. So I'd rather take a chance. Hope you guys like it, but if you don't, well, at least I took a chance, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we read a lot of comics, so I definitely hear you. And I guess it maybe takes a career as big as yours to have the confidence to be like, boom, here's the story, and I'm telling it. Here we go.
Well, no, actually, it takes a publisher who has confidence in your work, because and I'm not knocking DC or Marvel. But they're corporate owned, and there's been we did this U.S. Agents series over at Marvel a few years ago.
Yeah,
and I wrote U.S. Agent the way I remember the late Mark Grunwald writing him. I knew Mark, and I was there when he was creating U.S. Agent. And U.S. Agent was kind of a jerk. He was kind of an a-hole, right? He was intolerant, kind of bigoted. He's a kid, kind of, So I wrote him like that. And Marvel approved it, and we went through the whole thing. We got the book drawn and lettered, blah, blah, blah. But now all these books have to go up to standards and practices before it goes out to the printer. So Marvel said thumbs up, but it came back from standards and practices, and it looked like it had the measles. Why? Why? Because I wrote this intolerant sort of guy who said these intolerant sort of things, and they're like, he can't say that, he can't do that, you know. And it turned out that they were putting this character into the Falcon and Winter Soldier streaming show,
major motion.
So now the studio's being very protective of these characters. So at DC and Marvel, I hear no an awful lot. And at Dynamite, I have, like, you know, Nick Barucci kind of goading me on. And, you know, I mean,
more.
You know, he employs Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks.
Garth Ennis.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm so tired.
That's such a talk about a breaking news. He employs Garth Brooks to play in his house on a daily basis. It's crazy.
Yes, Garth Brooks is going to take over the writing on the next issue.
I mean, he has a dark side, Garth Brooks.
Yeah,
he has that dark side.
He has that alter ego.
Chris,
alter ego?
Wait, what was it? Chris something?
Yes, it's Chris something. Shouts for you even knowing half of it, Alex. Nice.
So yeah, I think you know, it's just you know, the feeling of being empowered to stretch. I mean, when Nick Rucci approached me to do Vampirella in the first place, I was kind of reluctant to do it, and I kind of ran and hid from him for about 6 months, and then he tracked me down at Mohegan Sun at Terrificon, and I said, look, you know, you guys see the movie Casino with Robert De Niro?
Oh yeah,
love it.
So there's this scene where De Niro's lounging by the pool, and the mob boss comes over and tries to talk him into taking over the casino, and he's trying to talk the mob boss out of it. He's like, what do I know about running you know? And then finally he goes, all right, if I do it, I got to do it my way. I mean it. No interference. You know, no. You know, I don't want to hear from the bosses back home. I got to do it my way. And that's kind of how I put it to Nick. I said, look, you know, don't call, you know, Garth Ennis. Got it right this time. Don't call Garth Ennis and not expect Garth Ennis to show up. If you call Garth Ennis, you ought to expect that Garth Ennis is going to show up, right? Yeah. So if you call me, I'm going to be irreverent. I'm going to be different. You know, I don't know that it's going to work. It may work. It may not work. I'm going to swing for the fences. It's going to be funny. It's going to be offbeat. It's going to be unexpected. It's going to take these left turns that you don't expect. Because I'm not going to come on board Vampirella and write somebody else's Vampirella or keep the status quo, because that's not interesting to me. And then when I got into the material, all due respect to writers who make much more money than I do, I'm not trying to bad mouth any other professionals, but it wasn't something I wanted to do, and I got a free hand to kind of create my own little pocket of the Vampirella universe where I don't have to worry about any other continuity, whatever, and I can do what I want. And you know, I think I brought a bunch of humor to the book. I brought black people to the book. We never had black people in the book.
Nice.
Okay, you know, she's got a snarky psychiatrist who's very funny, and this guy Ergun, and yes, you pronounce his name right. Or this guy Ergun, he's just fabulous. He does this sort of animation cells. You know, it kind of looks more like Vampirella, the animated series, but it's he does incredible things with color.
Well, it actually ends up looking more real, quote unquote, real to me. The style, it's just something about it flips in my brain, or maybe it's the colors, where it just really, like the page Alex was showing earlier is so evocative. It just works so well.
And he has this wonderful sense of humor that may not come across in the material you've got here, but there's just lots of times we're working with a translator. He's Turkish, so we're working with a translator. And what I like about the translator is that he doesn't just run stuff. There it is. That's the scene where she goes into the room and she finds him in there with the kid. And that's him talking to himself.
Oh, man.
You know, but yeah, the translator, he doesn't just run it through Google Translate, because he will not just translate what the script says. He translates the intent. He translates the nuance. Cool. And I'm always surprised when I get the pages back, and my God, Ergun got it. I mean, he really got it. You know, I mean, there's an issue. I think it's the next issue. This is issue 1. I think it's issue 2. Vampirella has run away from home. Oh no, I think it's 3 because by issue 3 she caves in. She has no other choice. She calls her mother. So now she's left the kid. She left the kid with the mother, and the kid loves her mother, and the kid is doing so much better under the mother, and the mother loves the kid, and they're just having a grand old time, and she's horrified, and she feels terrible because I'm such a bad mom, so she runs away, and she says I'm going out for milk, and she goes to the airport and catches a flight. Right?
Oh wow!
And she says, "I'm just going to keep flying until I can shake this off." So she ends up where we all end up. If you stay on a plane long enough, you will end up at the Circle of Hell, which is the Las Vegas airport. Anybody ever been there?
Yes,
sure.
There's a terminal. It's where Spirit Airlines. And I fly Spirit a lot. Don't ask me why, but I fly Spirit a lot.
No, we just did it. We went to New Orleans on Spirit. And
did you get the big front seat?
No, just the.
But that's not really what they call it. They call it the big front seat.
Yeah,
that's really what it's called.
It's another $50 or $60, but it's a first class seat. It's not first class service, but you don't. You got elbow room, and it's padded. It's not like the slave seats back there. But at any rate, the Spirit has a big hub in Las Vegas, and it's literally called the Circle of Hell because it's circular. And in the middle of it is all these slot machines where you can just go broke and drop the mortgage money. But it's way too small, and it's 1 million people, and they're all like crammed into this area, and it's like 2 or 3 of these circles. So you can go from this circle to that circle to that circle. So Vampirella's in this Circle of Hell, and I described the Circle of Hell, and I got some reference shots of it, and we sent it over to the translator. Translator sent it over to Turkey. Ergen comes back. My God, it's the Circle of Hell, and he drew like 100 or 150 unique individual people, and they're all doing different stuff. The kids are doing different stuff, and they're climbing on the stage, awesome. And Vampirella's there going, "Kill me, kill me!" It's incredible. It's just incredible.
That's so cool.
I'm blown away by this guy's work.
Wow. Just to take a little bit,
go ahead.
Take a little bit of a step back to something you said earlier. So you were talking about how you don't like giving kids 2 characters, yet that's exactly what you did with Vampirella. I mean, what led you to that decision? Like when you realized that was the place that you were going to get to with her, was this forcing yourself into the situation, knowing that there would be something on the other side with the challenge? Why did you do that to yourself?
I didn't do it. My editor did it.
Okay.
A lot of this stuff I blame on him. Matt Idelson is the father of Everett K. Ross, the Black Panthers State Department handler from the Black Panther series. He and I were working together on Kazar a million years ago. And I invented Everett Ross in the Kazar book there. And then later when we did Black Panther, I transplanted him over to the Black Panther thing. So Matt Idelson, my Vampirella editor, he and I have been working together on and off for a very long time. At some point, actually quite a few of the big ideas or the big story arcs were suggestions from Matt, and at some point he said, well, wouldn't it be cool if she was pregnant? I was like, ooh. That's how we end this story. She finds out that she's pregnant, and then one thing leads to another. But yeah, I think that I think there's a reason why I am not in charge of Superman, because I would give Lois and Clark.
He'd be pregnant, yeah.
Yeah, he'd be pregnant. There you go.
Kryptonian biology, who knows? Well, let me ask you then. Like, it feels like you've written so many characters. Like, what, from a character perspective, turns your head these days? Like, is it revisiting a character? Is it like, are you drawing in something from the current events that makes you like, I want to take another look at this character, that character?
I don't know. In terms of my writing it, I ask myself, what can I do that we haven't seen a million times before? Okay. So, I don't know, years ago, I did a Wonder Woman story, and a Wonder Woman story I probably could not do today because of how much the world has changed. But I did a story with Wonder Woman that was based on the film Indecent Proposal.
Wow.
where there's this tyrant in like a Bosnia type country, and he's doing all this ethnic cleansing, and people are dying all over the place. And he goes to Wonder Woman. He says, "Look, I'll stop the war. I'll end the killing, all of it, in exchange for one night with you."
Whoa.
And we did that. That was in Legends of the DC Universe 34 or something like that. It didn't turn out quite as well. There were some issues with the art or whatever. Right. But I asked myself, like, you know, what's unique to this character? What are the unique attributes of this character? You know, we just did like Superman Lost, where you know, I had a, you know, Lost in Space for a bit.
Loved that.
Yeah, but then there's a kind of a disconnect with how Superman is portrayed today, because the way they're portraying the super people, Supergirl, Superman, Supercat, whatever, you know, is that they've got him like flying around from planet to planet, you know, and Christopher Priest says, no, he can't do that. And then I called a bunch of people, and I talked to a bunch of people who would know these kind of things, including people who used to work there. And they went, no, he really can't do that. Superman can't fly faster than light unless he is with Green Lantern, or he's on the Hawkman's spaceship or something like that, you know. But now they've kind of dismissed all that. So no, he can fly from planet to planet. And so it kind of invalidates everything we tried to do, because Superman Lost is all about, he is, you know, far from home in a place he's never been before, and besides not quite knowing the way home, because he cannot travel faster than the speed of light. It's like the Enterprise moving on impulse speed. It takes years to cross these great distances. So, you know, that's what I do. I just kind of, how can I annoy my editor the most? It's kind of how I approach it, I guess.
That's just what I'm going to pull a Pete for a second and take you back to like early or mid 90s. You did a run on The Ray.
Yeah.
A comic that, man, that just hit me. So it was one of the comics that I just loved so much. And I go back and reread that run you did. It's just shouts to that. One of my favorites.
Well, thank you. You know, I want to shout out to Jack C. Harris and Joe Quesada. When I came to DC Comics in 1990, I kind of had The Ray in my back pocket. I was like, well, this is what I want to do, you know. And then when I got there, you know, I was told, well, you know, corporate this, and, you know, yada, 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 word salad. Basically that, you know, you can't be an editor and have creator credit on something or whatever, you know. So I tossed it over to Jack, and Jack brought in the allergy to light, and he brought in a bunch of other things that were just wonderful. And then eventually I left staff, and they started a new Ray series, and they offered it to me, and I got to do that for a while. And Ray was supposed to be DC's Spider-Man. It was baldly Spider-Man. I mean, he was a young guy. He's just starting on his own. He had girl trouble.
Look, specific design, like it was really power.
And then after I left, I don't know. They just didn't know what to do with him, and they still don't know what to do with him. So, you know, maybe that's something I should do, is go back there and say, hey, he's still lying around.
Go.
Do it. That'd be awesome.
He's just sitting there.
While we're talking about long-standing things, I have a question for you
Sure.
that I've wondered about for years at this point. Sometimes you're credited as Christopher Priest, and sometimes you're credited as Priest. Is there a method to the madness? Does it have something contractual, or why is that?
Oh yeah, it's contractual. No, usually I personally think that the credits in comic books are too long, and that it's too much stuff. It should be by Stan and Jack and Herbie, you know, or whatever. Just simpler. Who cares? Simpler the better. Comic book fans by now, they certainly know who we are. We're not, you know, hiding anything. So usually when they're doing a solicitation in a catalog, they'll use my first name. If they're, you know, that kind of thing. If it's a house ad or something, they'll use my first name. Usually in the credits inside the comic book itself, I type the script, so I usually just write just Priest instead of, like, you know, John Wilkes Booth the Third, you know, Jr. or whatever. I mean, it's too much. And also I was being stalked by the British author, the late British author.
Oh,
Christopher Priest, who, you ever have one of these guys or one of these people in your life, and you couldn't really tell, is this guy joking or does he mean it? You know, because he's being like incredibly rude, but at the same time, he's such a good writer that's how good a writer this guy was. That he would write me these lengthy emails, these book length emails, complaining and castigating
about having
me
the same name,
for having the same name, and wanting me to contact Diamond publishers or whatever and have them pull all my stuff from the catalog and change the name like that. You know, which is absurd. I wasn't going to do that. You know, and I would get really angry, but then I would go, but what if he's joking? He's just joking, right? And I could never tell. And that's how good a writer Christopher Priest, the British Christopher Priest, was.
That's really funny.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Just to get back to Vampirella for a little bit, this is continuing the march to issue 700, if I have my numbers right. So we're starting with the new number.
They're marching.
Yeah, they're marching.
Yes.
Yeah, you're starting with the new number 1, and it begins the march to 700 because that's how comic book numbering works. But what can we expect as this run starts to heat up? Obviously, you've teased and talked about a lot already.
Alien invasion.
Oh,
that's where we're going. And I'm not. It's only a minor spoiler because I think issue 2 opens with an alien invasion.
Yeah, all right.
And our guy Cicero, Vampirella's son, he is in Doc Chari's office. Doc Chari is Vampirella's psychiatrist, whom I hope when they cast the movie that Samuel L. Jackson will play, because that's my inspiration. Whenever you see that character, think Sam, okay? Because he's just like, his affectionate name for her is Crazy Space Bitch. He doesn't believe in vampires, werewolves, or any of that stuff. He just thinks she's crazy, and he's just a delight to write. He's a lot of fun. So Vampirella's son ends up in his office because he knows that his mother trusts this psychiatrist. So he has gone to him, and he's telling him this story about Earth being overrun by these aliens called, I think the Ancients. I think that's what we call them. But they're the people who originally created Draculon, her home world. They terraformed this moon and created Draculon. And now they've been drawn to Earth as a result of this sequence of events that all stems from, Vampirella being this evil, powerful empress in the future. And all of that stems from the fact that, she got her baby back and she never got over the postpartum. So he's gone to the psychiatrist, goes, you got to fix her because the whole planet, this is going to escalate beyond, world wars and everything else. And next thing you know, I think issue 2 opens up with like this fleet of friggin' spaceships attacking the Earth. So it's only a little spoiler.
Yeah. Awesome. That sounds fantastic. Before we let you go, is there anything else you want to plug? Obviously, you've always got a lot of different titles going on.
There's lots of stuff I'd like to plug. I have to wait for people to, I have to wait for the companies to announce it. Marvel just sent something to catalog, so that almost any day now you will hear about a new Marvel book that is launching this summer, I believe. Cool. I have a series at Humanoids that will probably be released all at once, like a Netflix series. It'll probably be like a graphic novel. They'll probably just put it out as an original graphic novel. But we've been working on that for quite a while, and that's almost done now. That's the Humanoids book. I have a book coming out from Skybound. I think that's going to be 26, though. I don't know that that'll make it this year. We just got started on it. We're about 6 issues into it. The Skybound Humanoid. There's a Kickstarter book out there called The Last Spartan. It's a graphic novel, an original graphic novel that deals with human trafficking, and it's co-written by Tyler Mane, who played Sabretooth in Wolverine and Deadpool, and of course Vampirella. And whatever else might be lying around, I don't know, but I don't sleep much. Yeah.
And of course, the Ray coming in 26, 27.
Yeah, I'll drop him a note. I don't think they're doing anything with him right now, so why not?
Yeah,
awesome. Just for Justin, this is fantastic. Priest, thank you so much for coming on. The book is great. Looking forward to more.
Real pleasure.
Alex, do you have a cold? You sound congested.
Nope, that's just I'm a nasal guy. That's how I talk.
All right. Well, listen, gentlemen, I had a great time. Thanks for having me on. And, and there'll be all kinds of crap coming out over the next few months or so. So have me back at some point.
Okay? Love
for sure. Would love to. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Later.
All right.
Oh, man.
Again, woo! The book is Vampirella. It's a new #1 coming from Dynamite on March 26th. You can pre-order it at your local comic book shop now, and please do.
Yeah.
Because if you were just listening and not watching, the art is awesome. The story, as you can tell, is wild, and it should be very cool.
Wow, man.
Wow, indeed.
Look,
Why don't we move
Alex,
on?
he used his final plug to check in on your health.
Yeah, that was really nice of him. You know?
That was nice. / insulting. No,
Oh,
fine.
come
I mean,
on.
that's how I sound. I have a nice. I know how I sound.
I hope so. I hope you do.
Why don't we move on with our next section, which is my favorite section because you all make it up. It is your audience questions. And for audience questions, all you got to do is drop a question in the comments on Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube, maybe Instagram as well. I'll take a look over there. But
Twitch.
in the meantime, what you guys drinking? Justin, you have a big old seltzer, a big soda
What
stream
is
going
salsa?
I'm doing a little detox this week. We had the kids home from school last week, and I need to fix my body following that.
Wow, you all right, bro?
Yeah, just drinking water. Another thing you can drink, which is pretty healthy, I hear.
Yeah, that's what I'm having. I'm also having water. Pete, you also having water?
Nope.
Essentially, that's what garage beer is.
Hey, how dare you? It's not. There's alcohol in there.
Yeah. Somewhere, I guess you could find it. All right, here we go. Frederico Rosa says, what are your last week thoughts about the Oscars? Don't know if you talked about it yet. Justin, you're our man in Hollywood.
Yeah,
Take it
you're the
away.
Hollywood hunk.
That's
Did
right.
you vote? Did you vote this year?
I am not in the. I don't vote in the Academy. I did vote. I'm on a blue ribbon panel for the DGA, and I vote on the WGA.
And that's who has, like, you got to check out the director's teeth and just like their breeding
Best in
capacity.
show.
Best in show.
Yeah,
Oh, boy.
yeah, 100%.
So who got the blue ribbon?
I smacked Sean Baker on the ass and had him run around in a circle, and he's really got something here. I have a couple more movies to watch for the full Oscar split. I don't know. It's been a wild race. I don't know if anyone's been following it. There was like Emilia Perez was rising, then there were some scandals that knocked that back down. Similar, Brutalist had a couple like smaller AI based scandally things, leaving the door open for Honora to slide through, and some of the smaller and Guild Award shows that have been coming out the last couple weeks. Honora's one, Conclave has one, I think one of the BAFTAs. So it's a wild mix. It's sort of like a Complete Unknown could take it. Timothée Chalamet's been like huge streak. I feel like the acting awards are pretty much locked in. I think Demi Moore, Chalamet. Kieran Culkin will win, I think.
Yeah, that seems like the most. Hasn't he won every single award at this point?
Yeah, and I feel like that always happens in Best Supporting Actor or Actress. It was like Divine Joy Randolph was, I think, last year, right? And it was just like she won every one and then won the Oscar. And it's the same with Kieran Culkin. Every
Right. I feel like the joke last year was also, wasn't it Robert Downey Jr. gave basically the same speech every single time out or something like
100%.
that?
Well, and you can, if you track the speeches, I'm deep in this maybe, but like Demi Moore's speeches from Golden Globe she won, that was like the introduction of her campaign, and then every one of her speeches is getting more and more sort of prepared. She won the SAG Award on Sunday, and her speech was like, boom, I got my SAG card in this year, like just like locked in on what she needed to say. So like you can see it sort of getting closer. But I think Best Picture this year has been crazy. My favorite movies, Honora. I'm a Bob Dylan fan, so I love To Complete Unknown. I'm halfway through A Real Pain, really enjoying that. I still have to see Conclave, and I've seen most everything else.
Yeah, I'm admittedly terrible at this. I would have thought before all of these things happened with Emilia Perez that even though it's not actually a good movie, it probably would have won. Now I think it's kind of out at this point.
Yeah, I think so. Well, because Oscar voting actually ends, it ended in the middle of the sort of crest of that scandal. So I think that's gone away because of that.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a terrible guess, but I'm just going to throw out Conclave, not because I think it's the best movie, but because I feel like it's the safest Oscar choice. Like, it's good. It's a good movie that just feels very traditionally like good actors in it. It's about the church. There's a big cast. It doesn't have any weirdness about it, so maybe it'll just kind of sneak in there.
I think that's a chance. I thought A Complete Unknown was going to sort of upset the expectations, but I'm going to put some money on Anora. I want Anora to go through.
Okay.
Great movie. It's just, it has all the
James
vibe.
Everett agrees with you.
Yes, shouts James. And that movie, I just think, I was just voting, because it's also, again, getting into the details, it's ranked choice voting. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Honora's going to be first for a lot of people, but also second, third for a lot of people when other movies are going to be all over the place.
Yeah. We shall see. Let's go over to Pablo D. Martinez's question. What do you guys think of the Broccoli's pulling away from James Bond to let Amazon take control of it? What do you guys think?
Great. I think, I mean, not maybe
great.
Great.
Okay.
I just feel like the Broccoli's have had such a tight control of it that they're, and the movies aren't like preserving a quality, I think, that would warrant such a tight grip on it. So, like, I think open it up a little bit. Let's get another. What they really need is like another big filmmaker or person to get involved and be like, all right, here's what these movies are going to be. And if that can happen and it doesn't just like become an MCU type thing, I think it's going to be awesome to get more.
Except that apparently is the problem. The reason that the Broccoli's didn't want to sell is because Amazon repeatedly expressed they wanted to create a cinematic universe around James Bond. She didn't trust that they would choose the right actors or directors. They've been very adamant for years about not getting somebody that's like top tier name because it's all about James Bond, not necessarily about the actor building them up. My take on it is I feel like it is a net negative for film and the history of film, but in terms of James Bond, it's probably fine. You know, like, think about it.
The point is, let's make some stuff. Like, sitting on it and just not doing anything is not fun.
Right.
Like, so...
Amazon sucks. Like, they've done, you know, obviously, like, we have friends in the comic book industry who have gotten some great stuff, and that's awesome, and we like watching a lot of stuff.
They do make weird stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, Reacher's good.
He's very large, I agree. They are very successful with white guys with guns who have shows named after them that are based on books. They had Reacher, they had Jack Ryan, now they got James Bond. There's an almost 100% chance they're going to do some sort of James Bond TV show or something like that. It'll do great, and it'll build their bottom line, and that's kind of what they want. But in terms of, like, I love James Bond movies. They have a rhythm and a formula to them. I don't think you could do that on modern TV where it's just, there's exceptions, like Poker Face is almost the same thing every episode, but even that has serialized story over the course of the thing. They're going to do the same thing with the James Bond series. So we'll see. Could be bad, could be good. I think it was great that it was a film series for so long, but like you said, nothing was happening with it. So it is what it is.
They're getting old, those Broccoli's.
They are. And if there's one thing I know, you got to take that old broccoli out of the fridge and throw it in the garbage. Schweikler says, what are your favorite uses of alter egos pen names in the creation of comics?
I feel like most people are using their names.
Sure.
Garth Brooks was a fun example of that there.
Yeah. What about Stan Lee? His name is Stanley Lieber, right? So that's pretty good.
Yeah, really good. I mean, he did create a thing that was
created an alter ego.
Enduring for all of time. I mean, like, there's some people that sort of have more nicknamey.
I mean, Jack Kirby had a bunch of different stuff.
I feel like letterers, there's a lot of, like, Crisscross. Or is that a colorist?
Art Germ.
Yeah.
Art Germ's pretty good. I always like it. I don't like it. It weirds me out every single time is whatever you see, like Justin Tyler of Art Germ Studio or something like that, when they credit it that way. I'm like, is that necessary? Do I need to know that information?
Yeah. You can just Google Google
Dean
me.
Delp says, what do you guys eat and drink when you go to the movies? Great question. Pete, take it away.
All right. So when I go to the movies, I like to be an asshole. I like to have a bunch of stuff on my lap, just to kind of get me going for the movie. So, yeah, it's ridiculous, but over the top fun is what I like to go for. But I'm usually getting I got to get the popcorn soda pop, the minimum.
Yeah.
And then
my wife wanted to come in and answer this question specifically. What stuff do we eat at the movies? Mom?
I like to eat
Raisinets.
Raisinets.
Yeah.
Get her off the show.
She's cut.
Oh, man.
Moving on. We're cutting out that
from
part.
the 40s? What happened? Raisinets.
Oh, do you pair it with goobers? You get some
so
raisinets and goobers?
That was fucked up. I was like, hey.
You really set her up for failure there. That was fucked up.
so cool.
I just,
That was really messed up, man.
She says one thing, we just instantly roast her.
Wow. We finally get her on the show after all these years, and that's what you do.
I love my wife. I love her raisinets.
I do want to mention real quick about Pete. I know I've said this before, but the funniest time I saw Pete do that was when we went to see Black Panther in 4D. We had gotten invited to a 4D screening, and there was like a blanket of snacks on your lap, and beyond just the whole 4D experience, my favorite part of it was looking over and just seeing you jump back and forth and the snacks like hopping on your lap the entire time.
That's disgusting. You're a monster.
Thank you.
And let me be honest, I eat nothing at the theater.
Really?
I really...
It doesn't surprise me. You wear tight shirts.
I don't like eating during the movie because I want to concentrate on the movie, but if it is a movie that either I've seen before or I just do not care about, like we've taken the kids and it's just a terrible animated movie, though that is very rare. Maybe popcorn if I want it. Sometimes I'll get Twizzlers, which I know Justin thinks
use them as a straw.
No.
That's gross. Yeah, Twizzlers aren't gross per se, but
Yeah.
using
I like them because it's like, I don't know, I like candy-wise, I always look at the Sour Patch Kids, but I'm like, I don't want to feel sour
Did you guys
the entire time.
I love
sneak booze into the theater at all, or?
Now you have
Sneak
to order
in.
it. You can just get it there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Goodness gracious. No, I would never sneak anything into a movie theater. That's wrong.
Sorry, Pete. And just a reminder, everyone, Pete lives in the movie The Village. Allowed alcohol, I guess.
Lynn for the win. 11 says, based on the mixed results of the new Captain America movie, do you think FF will be the film that will make or break the MCU in the foreseeable future? Uh-oh. That feels slightly like a prompt for Pete to yell at us for a review of Captain America that I want to clarify he didn't listen to.
Did not listen to our review.
And has no context for it, doesn't know what
Let
we
me
said.
answer
Well,
this question
somebody
real quick.
said in the chat, I think it was last week, that you guys were very negative and that when I see the movie, I'll lose my shit on you. Which I did see the movie and I enjoyed. I thought it was, maybe not the best movie I've ever seen, but I had
Really?
I had a good time, and I got to see a Hulk clap in there that got me very excited. The thunder clap, which is always one of my favorite. Dude, it's one of my favorite Hulk moves, man.
I love seeing Hulk make a clap.
Yeah.
Mega clap. But yeah, I didn't hate it or think it was awful or whatever. Had some great actors in it and some really touching, powerful moments.
Wow, I don't know about touching, but I do think that there were some good parts. If you do ever want to listen to our review, Pete, there's some positivity, and I think you would really enjoy it.
I don't want to listen to it. That's why I haven't.
Sick. Cool. Pete jumps in his Thunderbird and drives away. Frederico Rosa has it right. Every MC movie is the next make or break movie, and I think that's accurate. Though I do think Fantastic Four is the one now. I think Thunderbolts is going to get a pass.
Dude, Thunderbolts is going to be great.
Here's the thing that I would say. If we're just talking purely in terms of box office and nothing else, Captain America has done fine. It's probably going to top out at like $500 million, which I want to clarify, if anybody wants to give me a fraction of that, that would be awesome. I really definitely need the money. That would be great. But $500 million for a Marvel movie is okay. Like, it's not great.
But it's much better than
it's much better than the Marvels. It's not like, well, this is the end of the MCU, but they want these movies to do $1 billion every single time out of the gate, if not more. If 500 million is the new normal, they are going to have some sort of reassessment of the MCU going forward. The same way that they're having a reassessment of the TV arm right now. We got some reports that there are a couple of projects in development they're not moving forward to anymore. They seem pretty bullish on being like, oh, remember those Netflix shows that people actually watched? What if we brought those back? What do you think? So maybe they're going in that direction.
I'm excited for Daredevil.
Well, here's the thing I will say that I was thinking about the other day that I had forgotten about. So many more people watch Netflix shows than they do Disney Plus shows, that the Disney Plus shows are just like not breaking through all of their live action stuff. I'm sure they're seeing data that's like, people are watching Daredevil and all of these Netflix shows on here because there's multiple seasons and lots of episodes instead of 6 episodes or whatever. Giving more of those episodes is just good business because it keeps people on the app longer. And they've taken them way too long to figure that out, but they will. Just to bring it back to the movies, I think the same thing is going to happen. I think Thunderbolts, I'm excited for the movie. It looks very fun.
Yeah,
if that also tops out at around $500 million, that definitely does, to Lynn's question, put a lot of pressure on FF. And I really don't think FF is going to be like the $1 billion killer that anybody wants. So they're going to have to take a look at, be like, okay, we got Doomsday, we got Secret Wars. We've already put $2 billion into budget of that. What happens next? TBD.
Yeah, I will say I think Thunderbolts is going to do better than Cap. And I think FF will do the best, is what I would.
Here we go. Let me see. Since Justin mentioned The Brutalist, what did you think about the James Cameron saying Avatar will open by saying it didn't use AI?
Shouts to that. I think that's what I hope more people do. Make that call, make that choice, and I'm glad people like him are making that as a line he doesn't want to cross.
Yeah, maybe this is wishful thinking, though I don't think it is. I think we are very close to the AI bubble bursting entirely. And
I'm so sick of being stressed about it and hearing about it.
It's not working, and everybody knows it's not working, and I don't know, we're like 6 months away, but it's bad. Stray Bullet says, Pete mentioned Reacher. What do you think of the new season so far?
Well, I'm very excited about the new season for a couple of reasons. One,
still big. Guy's still big.
The guy is huge, but he's also going up against another huge guy, which is a lot of fun that hasn't planned out yet. But we've got 3 episodes. They dropped the first 3. What's exciting is he didn't think I loved season 2, and he said that season 2, he felt like the fight sequences could have been more intense, which makes me very excited that this season will have a lot of intense fight sequences. So I'm excited for that. I think this season is a fun kind of like we're trying to figure stuff out. It all happened really fast, and so like they front loaded the first episode with all this action, and then we're kind of, as it goes on, we're finding out all this stuff. So it's it's almost like a whodunit type of thing. So that's kind of new and exciting. But yeah, I can't wait to get back in the action, and I can't wait for the showdown between this huge dude who's just kind of lurking.
We got a question here, Alex, as you mentioned last week about Daredevil's release schedule. What did you think about Andor's of 3 a week? And for anybody who doesn't know, they're doing 3 episodes a week of Andor for 4 weeks, I want to say, if I remember correctly, which the structure of the previous season was 3 episode arcs. And I believe they're doing the same thing this time, where each time it jumps forward a year in time, eventually linking up to the events of Rogue One. So, Justin, you're a big Andor fan. What do you think?
I mean, I can't wait for that show. We need an expert to tell us why they're doing this, because I don't understand. It feels bad. It feels like not the way I would do this. But I'm excited we get like an amazing movie 4 weeks in a row. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that. It's definitely movie length stuff. And it looks great.
Movies are fun.
Looks great. Movies are fun. But
did we talk about the budget for both seasons of Andor? Did I make you guys guess?
We've talked about it again. Before,
guess what the budget for both? This is 2 seasons.
$1 billion.
No, that's not real. Alex,
$270 million.
$645 million for 2 seasons of Andor. Money will never be spent. That will be the most expensive thing on television ever.
Crazy. Here, why don't we wrap up with this one? I think this is a good one to end with. From Pablo, did anybody hear that DC and Marvel are doing crossovers again at one-shots later this year? Yes, we did. That's kind of all we know. They're ostensibly called DC Marvel and Marvel DC. We don't know creators. We don't know what characters are involved. Or we don't know if they're going to be... I believe they're just 2 one-shots is what they've said. Maybe it's going to be more, maybe not. We don't know. But what do you guys want to see? Who do you want to see on these DC Marvel, if that is what it is, 2 one-shots, DC Marvel and Marvel DC? Who do you want to see on it creative-wise, and what characters do you want to see in it?
I mean, let's just, in the past, it's been basically JLA Avengers.
Right.
That was literally one of them, but even the other crossovers are sort of that, any which way. So
yeah, I mean, there's been stuff like, well, what am I thinking of? I don't know. Yes.
Well, wasn't there didn't they amalgamate the characters once?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was the whole amalgam universe thing where they jabbed them together.
I think it would be fun to get the Punisher and boyfriend is Apollo and Midnighter. Punisher and Midnighter crossover would be awesome.
Written, who writes it?
Greg Pak.
Greg Pak writes it?
Yep.
Who draws it?
Bochco. Yeah.
Stephen Bochco.
Yep.
I mean, what do we want? Who do we want the Avatar to be? Who's the main creative force? Do we want like a Jonathan Hickman? Do we want a Kieran Gillen? Do we want
I feel like if they're going for prestige, at least on the Marvel end, it's going to be Jonathan Hickman, right? Like nobody is better at architecting these things on the Marvel side than him at the moment. On the DC side, could be Scott Snyder, could be Joshua Williamson. Snyder. They've certainly been shepherding things. We got a mention here in the comments of Absolute Batman versus Ultimate Wolverine. Ooh. I want them to stay away from those universes because I love them being their own pockets.
To protect them. They're too good.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and that's why I think, because the reason, as I learned on a podcast called Comic Book Club News, the reason perhaps for this crossover is that the omnibuses are crushing right now, right? So, like, to do 2 one-shots feels like not a good follow-up to that. I think they need to go bigger than that. So I feel like it's going to be bigger than that.
I think it's going to be bigger than that, too. But as a counterpoint, if they're like 2 48-page issues, they can put them out as deluxe editions and sell them the same way. That said, yeah, I think you'd want a trade out of this in some way. And James mentions could be a woman, LOL. Yes, I mean, the one that I was not joking, I'm going to put in quotes online, was Kelly Thompson should do Absolute Wonder Woman.
Yes.
Meets Jeff the Land Shark. She writes both of them.
But keep it in universe?
Keep it in universe. I mean, I would read that. I would love that. Drawn by Guri Hiru. Come on.
Come on.
Come on. But who else? I mean, what we want to see? I saw a suggestion of like, which feels like almost they're going to do this, is Harley Quinn meets Deadpool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which makes a lot of sense. Well, that's the thing.
Is it going to be, because that's getting into like, hey, we're doing sort of a little gimmick here. And I would rather it be more like Hickman's Fantastic Four than like Blood Hunt. And having Deadpool and Harley hang out feels a little blood hunty, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I wonder, so there was that thing that Scott Snyder's talked about where he said at the end, I'm forgetting what the name of the event was. I think it was Dark Knight's Metal, but maybe it was the second one. Whatever it was, the source wall breaks, and one of his original pitch was like, the source wall breaks and you see who comes through as the Silver Surfer. And that's the sort of thing to me.
Such an awesome idea.
Yes.
Yo, imagine if you didn't know that was coming and you turn the page and it's a Silver Surfer being like, whoa, who are you? Or whatever. Just like blow your mind.
Yes. Yeah, so that's the sort of thing, like, I want to see that. Like, I want to see something that's like, yeah, Rob V and Felipe Andrade take on DC versus Marvel and just go absolutely cosmic and wild with it.
Yeah, mythological or like Infinity Gauntlet style, where it's like, it is like a smaller series, but it's just big story. Rather than like, look, it's Deadpool
Like a
goes
goof.
for a walk with, and it's just like, no, give me a big story that give some meaning behind these characters coming together. Not just a fight between. I don't need a fight. I don't need 15 fights between similarly powered heroes.
But think about it, because they fight at first, but then they become friends. Huh?
Well,
Let me throw this out here. So this is James Emmett says Gail Simone is writing X-Men, has done a bunch of DC work. That to me is a good call because, like, X-Men is also selling through the roof right now. So I could see some sort of X-Men versus blank, but what would they be versus? Because we got the classic X-Men New Teen Titans, right, is like the sort of iconic platonic ideal of a crossover. So if it was X-Men again, if it was this modern X-Men, who would they be going up against from the DC side?
I mean, I want to resist the urge to be like, let's match them up like you're doing a diner placemat, crayon thing. Like, I want something where they have to come together to take on something that's bigger than all of them. So, like, I want X-Men and everybody. Give me X-Men and a bunch of Robins.
X-Men take on Darkseid, something like that?
Yeah, it would have to be something like that, but, like, I mean, if they want to really have a best-selling thing, it's like X-Men versus Batman, right? And then you throw in the rest of the Robins and everything like that. It's them in Gotham City. It's Batman and the X-Men ending up in the Marvel Universe or something like that. I guess we will see. All right, we have a lot more thoughts coming in here, but we're already running pretty long, so why don't we wrap it up here and kick it over?
It's crazy we talked to Thomas Jane earlier.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy. I just wanted to...
We did too.
Scheukler.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Pete.
Scheukler asked for a hint before that I didn't get on last week's show, so I did want to...
We don't have time.
I just wanted to kind of shout out that it is Gordon Parks, thanks to Bruce Lee. And the other two hints are the other two gentlemen that I do the show with.
Great. This is, for anybody who's listening for the first time, your secret quiz that you've been hiding in the background for the past couple of months. Why don't we move on to our non-secret quiz? Since April. Oh, gosh. Why don't we move on with our next section, which is Real Trivia with Pete LePage.
Yeah, this is the part we give back to you, the lovely audience. It's an opportunity to win $25 free to Midtown Comics online, because if you had $25, you want to get some comics, am I right?
Yeah.
So we just need a brave volunteer, and you will win $25.
Pablo, hand up man here.
Pablo's in it. Pablo's in it to win it.
He is.
Welcome, Pablo. Great to hear from you. All right, today's trivia is about Jack Kirby and a small nod to the legend, Peter Navy Tue Ase Sopo. R.I.P. E. Honda from Street Fighter movies. Please listen to all three options before making your selection. Here we go. Question number one. Jack Kirby has had many pen names, as we talked about earlier, including blank. Is it A, Ted Gray, B, I didn't say I wanted a giraffe, I wanted C, Alan Graff?
Nice. Wow, you should have said that with your pen name question earlier, Pete. Pete, are you feeling a Thomas Jane halo? A glow?
A is correct. And Scheukler is already ahead of me, and it's a little upsetting. All right, here we go. Question number two. Kirby made a cameo on what TV show? Was it A, You Can't Do That on Television, B, The Incredible Hulk, or C, Kathy Ireland?
Could be either one of those.
Well, it couldn't be You Can't Do That on Television because that wasn't in the same time frame, so I would probably go with Incredible Hulk, you know what I mean?
Nice.
Yes, you're correct, B.
B. Pablo is correct with B. Great. And we got one more question, right?
That's right. Last one. Question number three. Kirby went to which college for a week? Was it A, the Pratt Institute, B, he better be doing his homework or he's grounded, C, Dean Reading?
That's a good one, Pete. I'm going to shout that out.
Yeah.
Dean Reading.
Dean Reading. Hey, James went to Pratt.
James went to Pratt. That's cool.
That's a fun fact.
Wait, Pablo says A. Is that correct?
A is correct, yes.
Wow. Congratulations, Pablo. You have won a $25 gift card to Midtown Comics. Shoot us an email. We'll get that to you. And Pete, what secret movie were you making reference to?
Of course, I was talking about the 1991 banger, A Necessary Roughness.
Oh, Schweikler said that so long ago, Pete. Is he writing trivia for you?
Yeah, he's reading my mind.
Are you just his puppet?
Oh, I don't like the way you said that.
Yeah. Well, I like the way that new comics come out every week. Pete, what are you looking forward to?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm looking forward to Absolute Wonder Woman #5 and Black Canary Best of the Best #4.
Excellent. Justin, what about you?
I gotta give it up to Ultimate Spider-Man #14 by the creator we talked about a couple of minutes earlier, Jonathan Hickman. I feel like the way that they're timing these books out, where each issue is 1 month, as we're getting toward this big confrontation, is really working. It's excellent pacing. It's been fantastic. Looking forward to so many more.
A bunch of stuff I'm looking forward to. I'll give a shout out to Godzilla vs. Chicago from IDW. Was looking forward to that.
Yes.
That's the beginning
Choose
of the
a side.
Godzilla tour of the country, I guess.
Godzilla
and
Smash.
the other one that I was really interested to check out, I had a fun time reading the first issue of this. So Kill Train #2 from Bad Cave Studios. It's just set in a ridiculous satirical future where everybody gets murdered on New York City subways. Seems very far-fetched to me.
Yeah.
You would know.
I also want to shout out The Seasons #2 by Rick Remender and Paul Azaceta, which is really enjoyed the first issue. Looking forward to more great. One of my favorite #1s that Remender has done in the last few years.
There you go. All of those titles and many more are going to be in our Stack podcast that posts Wednesday, 9 a.m., both the Stack feed and the Comic Book Club feed. And folks, that is it for this week's show. A couple of people we want to thank. We want to thank Christopher Priest for coming on to talk about Vampirella. We want to thank Thomas Jane for coming on and talking about
the Punisher, baby. Come on.
The Lycan. Next week on the show, Ying Chang, Kompenstein, and Vivian Trong are going to be here to talk about Buddha Jumps Over the Wall, another curiously named classic Chinese dishes, a graphic cookbook, 26 recipes and stories, and also slightly smaller name from the Massiveverse, Kyle Higgins and Ryan Parrott are going to be here.
Oh, cool.
Comic Book Club News, our daily news show, Monday through Friday. Podvincible, our Invincible recap show, posts semi-weekly as well. Marvel Vision, our Marvel podcast, just finished up recapping Spider-Man, so check that out. Patreon.com/Comic Book Club to support this show and all the shows we do. ComicBookClubLive.com for this podcast and many more. Until next time, we'll see you at the Comic Book Club.
Thank you.
And occasionally they let their special guest speak. So grab your written hammer, don't be late for it, 'cause their girlfriends can barely tolerate it. Comic Book Club, Comic Book Club, Comic Book Club.
Thanks, everybody. Oh, wait.
Whoa, let's do it again.
Start the show again. Start the show.
I'll show Thomas Jane my Punisher shrine this time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we didn't tell him about that.
Yeah, that would have got
Probably
weird.